After 1 year of marriage, I was diagnosed by the physician as being unable to bear children. The news spread like wildfire. In no time, I became the laughingstock of the capital's residents, my reputation completely ruined. My loving husband took the opportunity to bring his pregnant mistress into the Marquis estate. For the sake of the family's reputation, my parents abandoned me and adopted that mistress as their foster daughter. I was imprisoned, while that mistress became the legal wife. Only on my deathbed did I realize that my husband had always loved that mistress. I was nothing but a stepping stone for him to pave the way for his beloved. In this life, I have returned to the day I was diagnosed as infertile. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now, the story begins. Imprisoned for over a decade, I kept thinking, how did I end up in such a state, as the legitimate eldest daughter of the Minister of Personnel? Marrying the young Lord of Yongan Marquisate was considered a well-matched alliance. Logically speaking, I come from a good family background, and my looks are among the best of my peers. Since childhood, I was taught to be dignified and virtuous, and after coming of age, I was praised by everyone as a model. I had always thought I would live a peaceful and smooth life, but unfortunately, fate had other plans. Everything changed after I was diagnosed as infertile. The news was widely publicized, and some even exaggerated and slandered me, all just to ruin my reputation. My husband Lou Juicy took the opportunity to bring his pregnant mistress into the Marquis residence, and the two of them were inseparable every day. My parents had always valued the family's reputation above all else. Ever since they learned that my reputation was completely ruined, they no longer cared whether I lived or died. They had only one thought. They absolutely could not let me be divorced by the Marquis household, because the Shun family must not have a daughter who was cast off by her husband, as it would bring shame upon the Shun family. So when Lou Juicy made not divorcing me the condition for them to adopt the mistress as their foster daughter, they agreed without hesitation. With this status, the mistress became Lou Juicy's equal wife, and the child she gave birth to became the legitimate eldest son of the Marquis household in name and in reality. After marrying into the Yongan Marquis manor for a year, I went from being the dignified and virtuous eldest daughter of the Minister of Revenue, praised by all, to the hen that couldn't lay eggs in everyone's mouths. To protect the reputations of both families, the Yongan Marquis manor and the minister's residence secretly reached an agreement to remain in-laws. Only I was completely abandoned by both my husband's family and my own family. On the surface, I was still the mistress of the Yongan Marquis manor, but in secret, I was imprisoned in the backyard. After being tormented for over a decade, I died with resentment and grievance. If it weren't for the fact that I was on the verge of death, and the mistress, momentarily carried away by arrogance, provocatively revealed the truth to me, I might never have known. It turns out that my short and miserable life was all thanks to my husband, Lou Juicy. He was the one who poisoned me to make me infertile. He was the one who sent people to ruin my reputation, and he was the one who schemed to have me imprisoned. When I opened my eyes again, I saw the man who had ruined my entire life, my husband, Lou Juicy, dressed in fine silk robes, with bright eyes and well-defined brows. He was gazing at me with a look of concern. In a daze, I realized that I had truly been reborn. Just like in my previous life, Lou Juicy feigned deep affection and said, "Jingshu, don't worry, I will definitely find a renowned physician to cure your illness. Let's not tell father and mother about this for now. If they find out, they will surely blame you. And they might even force me to take a concubine. Who knows, they might even pressure me to divorce you. It's better if we focus on treating your illness first. Once you show some improvement, I will personally explain the situation to them. In my previous life, I loved him in my heart and didn't want to be divorced, so I followed his words and kept my infertility a secret, not reporting it to my mother-in-law. But before long, the news that I couldn't bear children spread like wildfire throughout the entire capital. I was ridiculed by others, my reputation was completely ruined, and it also damaged the dignity of both the Marquis's household and the Ministry of Personnel. When my mother-in-law heard the rumors, she angrily summoned me for questioning. I was punished by kneeling in the ancestral hall for 3 days and 3 nights, and then I fell seriously ill. While I was recuperating from my illness, that mistress not only became my parents' adopted daughter but also became the equal wife in the Marquis's household. It was all because I believed his nonsense. My lord, as long as you have me in your heart, I am content. But this matter must still be reported to father and mother. Now that I am unwell, and you are the only son of the Marquis's household, it is only natural that someone should bear your children and continue the family line. Why don't we go together now to inform mother-in-law of this matter?" After saying this, I took Lu Juicy's hand and walked out. Lu Juicy did not expect me to reject his proposal, and a flicker of annoyance flashed in his eyes. We arrived together at Showan Hall. And I told my mother-in-law about the physician's diagnosis. My mother-in-law's expression turned somewhat unpleasant. After a moment of silence, she spoke slowly. "Jingshu, in the year since you married into the Marquis's household, you have always done very well. The old Marquis and I are both very satisfied with you as our daughter-in-law, but as the saying goes, there are 3 forms of unfilial conduct, and the greatest of them is to have no descendants. Taking a concubine is non-negotiable, but rest assured, once the child is born, I will have them brought to your courtyard to be raised." "I understand. Thank you for your consideration, Mother. I will arrange for the concubine as soon as possible. There is one more matter I must report. Aside from the physician who took my pulse, only our family knows about my infertility. If this matter were to spread to outsiders, it could damage the reputation of the Marquis's household." "You are right. I will send someone to give that physician some money and have him leave the capital." Standing beside me, Lu Juicy looked gloomy upon hearing this. He excused himself, saying he had official business to attend to, and then left. I suspect he went to find his mistress to discuss countermeasures. After all, I had already told my mother-in-law about my infertility and sent the doctor away. If rumors were to spread again in the capital, the source of those rumors would be self-evident. I would never intentionally damage my own reputation, and my mother-in-law would never allow the Marquis estate's reputation to be tarnished. That leaves only Lu Juicy. Given my mother-in-law's way of handling matters, she would surely investigate thoroughly. A femme fatale who could make the future Marquis of Yongan act recklessly, regardless of whether she was pregnant or not, would never have a chance to enter the Marquis estate in this lifetime. In fact, she might not even survive. Returning to Cheen Garden, I immediately wrote a letter home and had my maid Siki personally deliver it to my mother. As my reputation remains intact, my parents naturally wouldn't easily give up on a daughter like me, as long as I don't make any mistakes. The minister's residence will always be my support. A day later, my mother found an excuse to visit me at the Marquis's residence. In the letter, I told my mother about my infertility. After all, I am her biological daughter, and as soon as she saw me, she held me in her arms with deep affection. I thought of the previous life, when she ultimately chose the family's reputation over me, her own daughter, and my eyes instantly reddened. At that moment, a young woman stepped out from behind my mother and smiled gracefully at me, saying, "Greetings, miss, this is Aiju, a medical practitioner from your maternal grandmother's family. Don't be fooled by her youth, her medical skills are remarkable." I knew that since Lu Juicy wanted to harm me, I would truly never be able to have children in this lifetime, but I still wanted to know the reason for my infertility. Soon, Aiju discovered something unusual. It turned out the problem lay with the golden hairpin I had been wearing in my bun all along. "Miss, this golden hairpin has been tampered with. The beads inlaid on it carry a strange fragrance and must have been soaked in some kind of medicine. I'm afraid this medicine is what causes infertility in women. An ordinary woman wearing it for a year would lose all ability to bear children, and a pregnant woman wearing it for a few months would miscarry. It's clear that the person who poisoned it has a vicious heart." The maid Siki's eyes reddened as she cried and said, "This was given to you by the Marquis. Could it be that the one who poisoned it is the Marquis? But why would the Marquis want to harm you like this? Why did he harm me?" "Of course, it was for that mistress and the child in her womb. That's right. This gold hairpin was given to me by Lu Juicy on our wedding night. I still remember what he said to me at the time. This gold hairpin was specially custom-made for me, representing his affection for me, and he told me never to take it off. In my previous life, I was so bewitched by his deceitful words that I mistook his ulterior motives for genuine sincerity. Deeply moved, I even smiled and let Lu Juicy put this gold hairpin in my hair. This has been worn for over a decade." My mother held my hand with heartache, a flicker of anger in her eyes. "The Yongan Marquis manner is truly going too far, my child. You've suffered. I'll go find your mother-in-law right now and demand an explanation for you." I understood her meaning. She knew that I could no longer bear children and feared that my position would be threatened, perhaps I would even be divorced. She wanted to use this leverage to control the Marquis manor, thereby preserving my status as the principal wife and the reputation of the minister's residence. But I stopped her, because I know Lu Juicy. He's the best at acting and would never admit it. He might even turn around and accuse us of framing him. If things escalate, the Marquis's household would definitely protect Lu Juicy and divorce me. By then, both my reputation and that of the Ministry of Personnel would suffer, I explained the stakes to my mother and told her that Lu Juicy likely had someone else outside. In the end, my mother left the Marquis's household with my instructions. Being in the Marquis's household, there are many things I can't do easily, and it's easy to arouse suspicion. I can only rely on the external support of the Ministry of Personnel. I used the incident with the golden hairpin to make my mother see Lu Juice's ill intentions. After she returns, she will surely explain my situation to my father. The Ministry of Personnel will do everything in their power to help me secure my position as the mistress of the Marquis's household. After seeing my mother off, I raised my hand and gently touched the golden hairpin in my hair, a chill flashing in my eyes. I must make Lu Juicy pay the price. In my previous life, he went to great lengths to have that mistress recognized as the adopted daughter of the minister's household, just so she would be qualified to marry into the Marquis estate as a secondary wife. In this life, my reputation remains intact, and the minister's household is already aware that he deliberately harmed me. They would never agree to recognize that mistress as their adopted daughter again. I want to see what identity he will use to bring that mistress into the household. Since the day Lu Juicy left under the pretext of having official business to attend to, he has never returned to the Marquis estate. I began to openly and actively seek a concubine for Lu Juicy. From the Marquis household, several maids willing to become concubines were selected. And the most outstanding in appearance was Hong Yu from the mother-in-law's courtyard. She was competitive by nature and held grudges over the slightest offenses. Relying on her mother being mother-in-law's most trusted nanny Qiao, she had always been domineering within the Marquis household, and she herself was highly favored and valued by the mother-in-law. Most importantly, she had feelings for Lu Juicy. In the past, when Lu Juicy pretended to be affectionate with me, she harbored great hostility toward me. I still remember the second day after Lu Juicy and I got married, when according to tradition we had to serve tea to my parents-in-law. She deliberately poured scalding hot tea on my hand. I endured the pain and managed to complete the tea-serving ceremony. Relying on her favor with my mother-in-law and with Nanny Qiao helping to excuse her, she didn't receive any severe punishment. However, my hand was scalded and left with a scar. From that time on, she often set traps for me in secret, but I always managed to cleverly avoid them. In my previous life, I was imprisoned in the Qinyuan, cut off from the outside world, with only my maid Siki to take care of me. I heard from Siki that, in order to suppress the mistress, my mother-in-law assigned Hong Yu to Lu Juicy, making her his concubine. Hong Yu even became pregnant at one point, but later miscarried for unknown reasons. After that, she became mentally unstable, sometimes lucid and normal, other times hysterical and harming others. In the end, Lu Juicy had her locked away. Since we were to take a concubine, it was only natural to choose the most suitable candidate in every aspect. Hong Yu was someone my mother-in-law valued highly, so even Lu Juicy couldn't easily refuse. My mother-in-law had always been in poor health, so I personally went to Shoan Hall to attend to her. While caring for her, I took the opportunity to bring up the matter of Hong Yu. My mother-in-law praised me for being virtuous and magnanimous. Even Madame Qiao, who usually never gave me a friendly look, treated me with a bit more kindness. With my mother-in-law's consent, I began to devote myself wholeheartedly to preparing the concubine-taking ceremony. I arranged for her to live in Linchi Pavilion, the courtyard closest to Lu Juice's study and the very one where his mistress had resided in my previous life. I personally oversaw the arrangements, ensuring she was given every bit of face. I doubt there was a more considerate main wife in all of Shengjing than I. Hong Yu, having been elevated so highly by me, truly began to see herself as the mistress of the Marquis household and grew even more arrogant. If the servants in the Marquis household showed the slightest neglect, she would scold and beat them. The servants dared not voice their anger. She was also extremely disrespectful toward me, but I paid it no mind and simply told everyone to be more tolerant. Servants from various households often chat a bit while running errands, and they particularly relish gossiping about their master's affairs. Word spread quickly from 1 to 10, and from 10 to 100. Soon, the entire capital was buzzing with talk about how I, the mistress of the Marquis household, was virtuous, magnanimous, and tolerant. Not only did I take the initiative to find a concubine for my husband, but I also treated the concubine with kindness. Once everything was properly arranged, on the day of the concubine's entry into the household, I sent a servant to fetch Lu Juicy, instructing them to ensure that the young Marquis returned to the residence no matter what. To my surprise, Lu Juicy actually brought that mistress directly into the Marquis residence. "Mother, this is Jin Niang," She is now carrying my child, and no matter what, I must give her a proper status. Lu Jusi spoke with a resolute expression. My mother-in-law looked at Lu Jusi and Jin Niang kneeling on the ground and angrily scolded, "You wretched fool. You turn down girls from respectable families, yet insist on taking in a woman from the brothels. Are you trying to anger me to death? If your parents-in-law find out about this, what will they think of you? Your father would never forgive you if he knew." That day, after my mother left the Marquis residence, she immediately began investigating Jin Niang's background and sent me a message. The letter stated that Jin Niang was originally a courtesan from the Tianjin pavilion. Later redeemed by Lu Jusi had intended to bring her into the Marquis household, but the old Marquis and my mother-in-law despised her background and refused to allow her entry. Left with no choice, Lu Jusi had been keeping her as an unofficial mistress outside the residence. However, she was not content to remain in such a position without status. Taking advantage of Lu Jusi's affection for her, she attempted suicide several times, causing Lu Jusi great distress. In the end, he promised her that he would grant her a proper status, and I was the stepping stone Lu Jusi had chosen for her to enter the mansion. What puzzled me was that Lu Jusi, as the only son of the Marquis household, had seen all kinds of beauties. How could he be so bewitched by her that he would even go so far as to favor a concubine over his lawful wife? In terms of beauty, I was no less than Jin Niang, even when it came to the peeper, which was Jin Niang's greatest skill. I had studied under a renowned master and was confident I could surpass her, so what exactly was it about her that captivated Lu Jusi? To resolve the doubts in my heart, I wrote back to my mother, asking her to investigate Lu Jusi's past. "Mother, Jin Niang has been adopted as a goddaughter by a merchant family, and in name, she is now a girl from a respectable family. With her current status, it wouldn't disgrace the Marquis's household for her to enter as a concubine." So, during the days Lu Jusi was away from the estate, he had been working to change Jin Niang's identity. In my previous life, he ruined my reputation and, on the condition of not divorcing me, forced the minister's household to adopt Jin Niang as a goddaughter, so he could openly marry her as a secondary wife. In this life, I cut off that path for him and made a grand show of arranging for him to take a concubine. They must have been so anxious that they were forced to take this move. Since Jin Niang entered the household as a concubine, she could only remain a concubine for the rest of her life. There has never been a precedent in our dynasty for elevating a concubine to the status of a principal wife. If Lu Jusi were to entertain such an idea, his official career would come to an end. The censor's impeachment alone would be more than either he or the Yong'an Marquis estate could bear. "It's all my fault, please don't blame Lord Lu." Standing by the bedside to attend to the sick, I quietly watched Jin Niang's performance. She is delicate and beautiful, truly a beauty that evokes pity at first sight. However, her eyes betrayed greed. From the moment she stepped into Shoan Hall, they darted around restlessly. Her behavior might go unnoticed by the men in the front courtyard, but for the women who navigate the inner household, it was transparent at a glance. "Silence, who gave you the right to speak here? My son may not see through your true face, but do you think I can't?" Jin Niang was frightened by her mother-in-law's imposing manner and pitifully hid in Lu Jusi's embrace. "Mother, please don't scare her. What if she becomes agitated and it affects the baby? If you're angry, direct it at me," Lu Jusi said reproachfully. Seeing that he couldn't persuade his mother, Lu Jusi noticed me standing nearby. "Jingshu, Jin Niang has no one else in the capital besides me. She has always been delicate and unable to take care of herself, and now she's pregnant. Please help me persuade mother." "Madam, I am inferior to you in every way. Please have mercy on me. I won't compete with you for anything. I just want to stay by Lu Lang's side, even if it means serving as a maid. If I cannot remain with Lu Lang, I would rather die." As she spoke, Jin Niang threw herself toward the table, but Lu Jusi stopped her and held her in his arms. "Shen Jingshu, as the mistress of the household, you show no tolerance at all. Are you only satisfied when you've driven Jin Niang and the child in her womb to their deaths?" Lu Jusi shouted at me with reddened eyes, as if I were a vicious, heartless woman. In my previous life, I was imprisoned as soon as I recovered from my illness, so I never witnessed Jin Niang's despicable tricks. If I don't let her stay in the Marquis residence now, she will surely continue to threaten suicide. When that happens, Lu Jusi will definitely quarrel with me, and might even use my infertility as an excuse to divorce me. The Ministry of Personnel will abandon me again to protect their reputation, and then I won't be able to get my revenge. This absolutely cannot happen. I cried and said, "Husband, in your heart, am I really such a person?" Was all the love and affection between us in the past just a lie? I adore you, and naturally I would love what you love. Why would you think of me this way? Seeing my sincere and heartfelt words, Lu Juicy became somewhat flustered. Jingshu, I misspoke earlier. Please don't take it to heart. My feelings for you are genuine. Could you please plead with Mother on my behalf? Mother, please calm your anger. Since I have become husband's wife, his children are naturally my children as well. I can see that Jin Niang is someone dear to husband, and now she is with child. Mother, for my sake, could you please allow this matter? As for the minister's residence, I will personally explain it to my parents, I said. My mother-in-law looked at me, then at Jin Niang, who was being protected in Lu Juice's embrace, and finally, for my sake, agreed to let Jin Niang enter the household. Jin Yang felt overjoyed that she could finally enter the Marquis's residence, but her smug, triumphant thoughts were impossible to hide from the upward curve of her lips. Lu Juicy looked at me with gratitude. Husband, a few days ago, Mother asked me to arrange a concubine for you. The ceremony was originally scheduled for today. You've met her before, it's Hong Yu from Mother's courtyard, so I thought we could first make her a concubine. As for Jin Yang, I'll pick another auspicious day to welcome her into the residence. Before I could finish, my mother-in-law spoke up. Jin Yang comes from a humble background, so let her start as a chambermaid. We can discuss her status further after she bears a child, to avoid outsiders laughing at our Marquis's residence. For now, let her stay in Mingxiang Pavilion. The fragrant tea pavilion was a remote and dilapidated courtyard. It seemed that mother-in-law truly despised Jin Niang, to have her live in such a godforsaken place. Upon hearing this, Jin Niang tugged at Lu Juice's sleeve with a grievance. Lu Juicy wanted to argue further on her behalf, but seeing mother-in-law's displeased expression, he had no choice but to take Jin Niang and leave. After they had left, mother-in-law took my hand and comforted me, saying, Jingshu, you've been wrong today. I thought to myself that compared to being imprisoned for over a decade in my previous life, what was this little grievance? Yet, with a choked voice, I said to my mother-in-law, Mother, if you must blame anyone, blame me for my own incompetence, for failing to bear children and continue the family line for the Marquis household. Rest assured, from now on, I will serve you and the old Marquis diligently, manage the affairs of the Marquis household, treat the concubines with kindness, and educate the children, so that my husband can devote himself wholeheartedly to serving the country. I believe the minister's residence will also fully support my husband's career. From my words, my mother-in-law could see that I had not given up on Lu Juicy and still held feelings for him in my heart, which immediately put her at ease. Good child, Juicy is just momentarily confused. As his wife, you must learn to forgive him. What man doesn't do such foolish things in his youth? He will eventually come to appreciate your virtues. My mother-in-law said, You can rest assured that you are Juicy's lawfully wedded wife, as long as I am here. No one can challenge your position as the mistress of the Marquis household. She summoned the steward of the Marquis household, brought the keys to the storeroom and the account books, and handed them all over to me. In my previous life, my mother-in-law, influenced by Hong Yu and her mother Nanny Chiao, was suspicious of me and never wanted to hand over authority to me. As a result, I had no real power in the Marquis's household and was constantly constrained by others. Now, she has actually entrusted everything to me. I know she is doing this to compensate me on behalf of her son. Although the Marquis's household holds a noble title, in this era of peace and prosperity, it is not highly valued, and its influence in the court is not as strong as that of the minister's residence. Therefore, she hopes to gain the support of the minister's residence through me. I obediently accepted the items. Having obtained what I wanted, I was naturally in an excellent mood. Returning from Shoan Hall to Qinyuan, I had just stepped into the courtyard when someone couldn't wait to come to my door. The visitor was Hong Yu. She must have already heard about Lu Juicy causing a scene at Shoan Hall for Jin Yang. She dislikes me because I am Lu Juicy's wife, and also someone Lu Juicy once pretended to love. I believe she now dislikes Jin Yang even more, since everyone in the Marquis household now knows that Jin Yang is the one Lu Juicy holds dear in his heart. Madam, I heard you agreed to let the Marquis take that mistress as a concubine. She asked me eagerly. I nodded with a smile. Yes. Hong Yu grew anxious and blurted out, How can this be? How is a woman from the pleasure quarters worthy of entering the Marquis's household? Seeing the jealousy on her face, I spoke unhurriedly. The matriarch has already agreed. Jin Niang's entry into the Marquis's household is a settled matter that no one can change. Hong Yu, now that you are already the Marquis's concubine, you should focus on how to please him instead of coming here to complain. I suppose you've also heard that Jin Niang is with child. You should put in more effort as well. As a concubine, gaining favor is certainly good, but having a child to rely on is what matters most. This is a fertility prescription my mother once spent a fortune to obtain. I had someone copy it for you. Take it back with you. I hope you'll work hard to help the Marquis's household flourish with descendants. This prescription was specially prepared by Aizhu. It increases a woman's chances of conceiving. Hong Yu happily accepted the fertility prescription, not even bothering to thank me, and said smugly, "Don't worry, madam. With my looks, gaining favor is only a matter of time. I'm sure I'll soon be able to add an heir to the Marquis's household." After she left, Siki said indignantly, "Madam, she doesn't take you seriously at all. Why should you help her? Now there's another Jin Niang. What will you do when they both have children? Even ordinary families keep a watchdog and occasionally give it a bone, let alone people." I gently touched the golden hairpin in my hair, the one I had intentionally broken and had a craftsman remake, replacing the poisonous beads, making it identical to the one Lu Juicy had given me, and said with a smile, "I am the mistress of the Marquis household. No matter who gives birth to a child in the future, they will all call me mother. Ordinary families also hope for many descendants. How much more so for a Marquis household? The more heirs, the better." Given the backgrounds of Hong Yu and Jin Niang, they could never become the mistress of the Marquis household in this lifetime. Their children are their greatest hope in the household. In order to have a child to rely on, they would resort to any means to win favor. Wouldn't it be better for me to reap the benefits while they fight among themselves? As for Hong Yu, this was her own choice. I haven't forgotten what she and her mother once did to me, so now, I don't feel the slightest guilt about using her. The next morning, Jin Niang and Hong Yu came to serve me tea, one with a rosy complexion, the other looking rather pale. I had asked the servants and learned that Lu Juicy had spent the entire night by Jin Niang's side, while Hong Yu had waited for him all night without seeing a trace of him. Furious, she had smashed quite a few things in her anger. Having lived a second life, I had long given up on Lu Juicy. Even glancing at him once more disgusted me, so naturally, I felt no sorrow. After drinking their tea as concubines, I took them to see my mother-in-law, in Shoan Hall. Mama Chiao was standing by her mother-in-law's side, attending to her. Seeing her daughter's poor complexion, she looked worried. After the mother-in-law granted a seat, Jin Niang directly followed me and sat down. Mama Chiao scolded Jin Niang with a stern face. "Jin Niang, you need to recognize your status. You are merely a chambermaid and have no right to sit. You should stand by the mistress's side like concubine Chiao, serving tea and water. You have no sense of propriety at all." Mama Chiao appeared to be standing up for me, but in reality, she was venting her anger on behalf of her daughter. I said with a smile, "It's all right. Since Jin Yang is pregnant, let her sit. I have plenty of people to attend to me. Aunt Chiao, you may sit as well. Otherwise, when my husband returns and sees this, he'll surely feel distressed." At this moment, Hong Yu deliberately bowed to me respectfully in front of Jin Yang and said, "Thank you for your consideration, madam. In that case, I shall accept your kindness." My mother-in-law sighed and said, "Jingshu, you are simply too kind-hearted." I glanced at Jin Yang, who was being targeted by Aunt Xiao, and clearly saw the hatred in her eyes directed at both Aunt Xiao and Hong Yu. Through this small confrontation, Jin Niang and Hong Yu began to compete with each other. Jin Niang, relying on Lu Juice's protection, provoked Hong Yu at every turn. Hong Yu, not one to be trifled with either, had the support of her mother-in-law and the assistance of Nanny Xiao, channeling all the energy she once used to trip me up into dealing with Jin Niang. As for me, I sat back and watched the tigers fight. On one hand, I advised Hong Yu, "Jin Niang is pregnant and is the one held dear in the Marquis's heart. Do not provoke her, or the Marquis will be distressed. Instead, think of ways to win the Marquis's favor. Having a child is the real priority." On the other hand, I sent nourishing delicacies in a steady stream to Mingxiang Pavilion, sending someone to tell Jin Niang, "Aunt Xiao was just too concerned about the Marquis and acted impulsively in giving you a hard time. It was not her true intention. The madam has already admonished Aunt Xiao and hopes you can both let bygones be bygones and get along well." Before long, the conflict between the two of them grew increasingly intense, sometimes even playing out right in front of me. Naturally, I advised them to prioritize harmony, but neither of them paid any attention to my words. As long as they didn't cross the line, I let them carry on with their quarrels. Ever since I took over the management of the household, I've been busy overseeing the internal affairs, with no time to bother with their petty squabbles. Managing the household wasn't particularly difficult for me. Before I was married, My mother had personally taught me how to handle such matters. First, I met with all the stewards, big and small, using a mix of kindness and authority. Those who could read the situation clearly sided with me early on. As for those who relied on their seniority and acted arrogantly, I dealt with them accordingly. Whether they were loyal or deceitful would reveal itself in time. There was no need to rush to judgment. I began quietly placing my own people in various courtyards, including the forest-dwelling pavilion and the fragrant tea pavilion. Even in my mother-in-law's courtyard and Lu Juice's study, I had my people, though they were all in inconspicuous positions, so no one would suspect anything. While my mother-in-law was recuperating, I managed the Marquis estate in an orderly manner, handling accounts, managing the household, dealing with social engagements, and disciplining the servants. All were done without a single mistake. For a time, both my mother-in-law and Lu Juicy were very satisfied with me. The most troubled was Lu Juicy. At first, Lu Juicy, as a man, quite enjoyed the feeling of two women vying for his affection, but as time went on, no one could stand it for long. One was the woman he loved, the other was the one chosen by his mother. Whenever the two of them clashed, he was caught in the middle, torn between them. Even if he wanted to favor Jin Niang, he had to think twice. At times like these, he would think of me and come to my Qinyuan to seek peace and quiet. I could only suppress my disgust and offer him a few words of comfort. Hong Yu was stunningly beautiful, and she had been given the fertility-enhancing prescription for some time, but there was still no news of her being pregnant. I only found out after asking that whenever Lu Juicy wanted to stay overnight at Linchi Pavilion, Jin Niang would use stomach discomfort as an excuse to call him away, to provoke Hong Yu and make her find a way to get pregnant as soon as possible. Every day when the two of them came to pay their respects, I would deliberately mention the child in Jin Niang's belly. I would also reward her with some precious tonics in front of everyone. Jin Niang unhesitatingly accepted them and didn't forget to glance at Hong Yu. Of course, I didn't miss the jealousy and hatred in Hong Yu's eyes. According to Siki, Hong Yu went to see her mother, and Steward Xiao obtained the love's entanglement for her. I asked Eiju about it, and she said it was a kind of aphrodisiac wine. For the next several days in a row, after Lu Juicy returned from court and was handling official business in his study, Hong Yu took the opportunity to bring him wine and snacks. I asked around and was told that Hong Yu would stay inside for a long time each time, and when the two of them came out, their clothes were always disheveled and their faces flushed. It seems Hong Yu did not disappoint me. Jin Yang is pregnant, so it's probably inconvenient for her to be intimate with Lu Juicy, unable to endure the loneliness. Lu Juicy has now tasted the sweetness and has started staying overnight at Linchi Pavilion from time to time. Mother has written again, this time about Lu Juicy. It turned out that Lu Juicy's true love was not Jin Niang, but her elder sister. At that time, Jin Niang had not yet entered the Tianjin Pavilion. She had an elder sister named Yu Niang, and the two sisters had a gambling-addicted father. 5 years ago, Lu Juicy fell in love with Yu Niang and wanted to marry her. His mother disagreed but did not want to alienate her son, so she agreed to let Yu Niang enter the household as a concubine. However, just before entering the household, Yu Niang accidentally fell into the water and drowned. Within 2 days, Jin Niang was sold by her gambling-addicted father to the Tianjin Pavilion to repay his debts. During this time, Jin Niang's appearance grew increasingly similar to Yu Niang's. By chance, she encountered Lu Juicy, which led to the current situation. I never expected Lu Juicy to be such a devoted lover. If he had remained consistent, I might have thought more highly of him, but now that he has transferred his affection to his beloved sister, it only disgusts me. And the true cause of Yu Niang's death was only revealed by their gambling-addicted father under the relentless questioning of the men sent by her mother. It was Jin Niang who, seeing that Yu Niang was about to enjoy endless wealth and honor, harbored malicious intent and deliberately pushed Yu Niang into the water, intending to take her place in the Marquis's household. One favored a concubine and neglected his wife, the other plotted against her own sister. They are quite a match. Seeing that Jin Niang's belly was already showing, I excused her from morning greetings. If something unexpected were to happen here, it would cause me a lot of trouble, and I don't want to give anyone a reason to say that I, as the mistress of the house, am not generous. That day, Hong Yu came to pay her respects to me. On the table were freshly delivered rouge-colored apricots. Though they were fresh, they were extremely sour. I watched her eat quite a few with great relish. Aunt Xiao, don't you find them sour? It's not sour. I actually find it quite delicious, she said shyly. For some reason, I've been craving sour foods lately, and I've also been feeling rather sleepy. Although I've never had a child myself, I know a thing or two about it. These are exactly the signs of pregnancy. I immediately sent a servant to fetch the physician. The physician arrived quickly, took her pulse, and diagnosed Hongyu as being 1 month pregnant. I was overjoyed and had Siki reward the physician. Now that I have gained my mother-in-law's trust and taken charge of managing the household, all I lack is a legitimate son to secure my position as the mistress of the Marquis estate. So, Hongyu's pregnancy came at just the right time. Hongyu proudly stroked her belly, her excitement evident. I always knew I could bear children for the Marquis. If he hears this news, he will surely be delighted, I said with a smile. Aunt Qiao, now that you're pregnant, you should rest well and take care of yourself. If you need anything, just let me know. Whether it's a boy or a girl, the child will be a young master or young lady of the Marquis household, and will be held in high regard. Of course, she replied proudly. I personally delivered the news of Hongyu's pregnancy to my mother-in-law, who was overjoyed. Even the nanny beside her couldn't stop smiling. My mother-in-law summoned Lu Juicy and told him the happy news in person. Lu Juicy arrived at Shoan Hall, and upon hearing this news, the warmth and joy in his eyes were unusually genuine. Mother-in-law, now that both Aunt Qiao and Jin Niang are pregnant, if they both give birth to boys, they will be the eldest and second sons of the Marquis. We must be very careful, I said with a smile. I said back then that no matter who gives birth to a child, it must be brought to you, the legal wife, to raise. If both give birth to boys, then one will be chosen to be recorded under your name and become the legitimate heir of the Marquis household. Jing Shu, rest assured, this matter will not change. Upon hearing his mother's words, Lu Juicy was momentarily stunned. I suppose he was worried that if Jin Niang's child wasn't a boy, and Hongyu gave birth to a son who became the legitimate eldest son, what should be done? Or if both gave birth to boys, but with mother's preference for Hongyu, she would surely register her child under my name. What then should be done? So I brushed it off with a few words, excused myself on the pretext of official duties, and left with a heavy heart. It is often said that if parents love their children, they plan for their long-term future. In the previous life, Jin Niang became a secondary wife, Hongyu had a miscarriage, and the child Jin Niang gave birth to was both the legitimate son and the eldest, rightfully becoming the heir of the Yong'an Marquis household. In this life, Jin Niang is only a concubine. If she wants their child to become the heir of the Yong'an Marquis household, the child must be registered under my name, and the child in Hongyu's womb must be eliminated, even though that child may not necessarily be a boy. Although I don't know how Hongyu miscarried in the previous life, it must have been related to Lu Juicy and Jin Niang. After all, no matter which life it is, my mother-in-law has never liked Jin Niang and has always favored Hongyu a bit more. They must have been afraid that if Hongyu gave birth to a boy, my mother-in-law would register him under my name, making him a legitimate son who would compete with their own son for the title in the future, which is why they resorted to such a ruthless move. In this lifetime, I'm afraid they will resort to the same old tricks again. For safety's sake, I also exempted Hongyu from her morning greetings, rewarded her with many nourishing treasures, and instructed her to rest peacefully during her pregnancy. My mother-in-law also took it particularly seriously, specifically sending her mother, Nanny Qiao, to take care of her. Presumably, her mother Nanny Qiao told her that my mother-in-law intends to register her son under my name, making him the legitimate heir of the Marquis household. Her attitude toward me has indeed become much more respectful. Upon hearing that Hongyu was pregnant, Jin Yang threw a huge tantrum and nearly miscarried. Lu Juicy spent a long time coaxing her before she finally calmed down. As for Lu Juicy, he suddenly became a good husband, running back and forth between the two households. According to the people I had placed in both courtyards, he would often bring back cosmetics, perfumes, or hair accessories from outside, one set for Jin Yang and another for Hongyu. Even my mother-in-law praised Lu Juicy, saying he had matured and learned to care for others. The two sides, who had been constantly at odds with each other, suddenly quieted down, each focusing on their own pregnancies. Yet, I felt increasingly uneasy, as if something was about to happen. In the blink of an eye, the Mid-Autumn Festival arrived. There was a palace banquet, and as the Marquis's wife, I accompanied Lu Juicy to attend. Just after returning to Qin Garden, a maid from Hongyu courtyard came running in tears and nearly bumped into me. "Madam, something terrible has happened." Siki, seeing this, stopped her for me and scolded her for not knowing the rules. "What's going on?" I calmly inquired. The young maid said, "Everything was fine earlier, about an incense stick's time ago. Auntie Qiao said her stomach was uncomfortable and needed to use the restroom. She went 2 or 3 times, then came back to lie down and rest. Just now she suddenly cried out in abdominal pain, and we discovered she was bleeding. I hadn't expected them to act so quickly. First go fetch the physician, then send someone to inform my mother-in-law and husband. After saying this, I immediately took Siki with me to Linchi Pavilion. I arrived at Linchi Pavilion ahead of the others and saw that Hongyu had lost her usual arrogance. Lying pale-faced on the bed, Mama Qiao, standing nearby, gritted her teeth and said, "Madam, you must seek justice for Hongyu. It must have been that little wench Jinyang who harmed her." At that moment, I noticed the golden hairpin in Hongyu's hair looked familiar, adorned with a precious pearl. Upon closer inspection, it was exactly the same as the one Lu Jusi had given me. Recalling what Azhu had once said, that the poison Lu Jusi had given me not only caused infertility but could also induce miscarriage in pregnant women, I understood why Hongyu had miscarried inexplicably. It seemed that in my previous life, Lu Jusi had used the same method. In order to get rid of the child in Hongyu's womb, Lu Jusi has been pretending to be a good husband these days, sweet-talking her into wearing the golden hairpin, but he actually administered the same poison as he did to me. Even a vicious tiger doesn't eat its own cubs. Yet Lu Jusi is worse than a beast. In the previous life, after Hongyu had a miscarriage, she became somewhat deranged and was eventually abandoned by her mother-in-law, cast aside like a pawn. In this life, I will tell her the truth. As for what she will do, I'm looking forward to it. The mother-in-law and the physician arrived one after another, but Lu Jusi and Jin Niang were the last to show up. The physician's diagnosis was simply that Hongyu's pregnancy was unstable, which led to the miscarriage. In short, it had nothing to do with Jin Niang. Jin Niang wore a smug expression. As if she had known the outcome all along, Hongyu woke up and, upon hearing that her child was gone, let out a sharp cry. Struggling to get up from the bed, she shouted that Jinyang had harmed her child and was about to hit Jinyang when Lu Jusi stopped her. Lu Jusi spoke directly. "Mother, Hongyu is probably overwhelmed with grief and has gone mad. I think it's best to lock her up for now. I've already lost one child. The child in Jinyang's belly must not be harmed in any way." Watching Lu Jusi feign a look of sorrow, I felt nothing but chills down my spine. I never knew I had married such a beast in human form. The mother-in-law looked at Hongyu's deranged state and felt somewhat sorry for her, but still prioritized the continuation of the Marquis lineage, saying slowly, "You're right. Hongyu's condition likely won't improve anytime soon. Let her recuperate properly in Linchi Pavilion." The nanny Qiao nearby wanted to speak up for her daughter's injustice. But as a mere servant, she had no right to do so in front of her masters. No matter how aggrieved she felt, she could only choose to endure in silence. Her face was filled with sorrow, with grief and resentment intertwined in her eyes. Yet even this endurance has its limits. As for where that boundary lies, I believe I have some idea. Mama Qiao also returned to serve her mother-in-law once more. Overnight, Hongyu lost her power, while Jinyang suddenly became the most valued person in the Marquis's household. As for me, I remained the matriarch of the Marquis's household. While arranging for someone to take good care of Hongyu, I continued to send nourishing delicacies to Jinyang's courtyard as usual. I quietly waited for the day when Jin Niang would give birth. My mother-in-law and Lu Jusi were very expectant. They both hoped Jin Niang could safely deliver this child, as it was the first child of the Marquis household. In the blink of an eye, winter arrived. Watching Jin Niang's belly grow larger day by day, it became somewhat frighteningly big, and the day of her delivery drew closer and closer. I began writing letters to my mother, hoping that my father could promote Lu Jusi in the imperial court and assign him some tedious official duties, preferably keeping him too busy to do anything else. My mother knew about how Lu Jusi had harmed me. Although she was very reluctant, she still agreed to my request. Lu Jusi was quickly promoted and began working under my father. Both Lu Jusi and my mother-in-law were very happy, but his busy official duties gradually left him with no time to manage the affairs of the Marquis estate, let alone spend time with Jinyang. Moreover, my mother-in-law had always been in poor health, and quietly, without anyone noticing, the entire Marquis estate came under my control. I knew the time was almost right. I instructed Siki, "Tell the maid taking care of Hongyu to find a way to make Hongyu discover on her own that the gold hairpin Lu Jusi gave her is problematic. It's the medicine on it that caused her miscarriage. Then, find 2 loyal old women to chat casually outside Linchi Pavilion, saying that the physician has determined Jinyang's child is very likely a boy, and the Marquis plans to register the child under my name as the legitimate eldest son. She should also know that back when she was pregnant, all the kindness Lu Jusi showed her was just to get rid of her child. Let's help her too. We can't let her child die without her knowing the truth." after she lost the child, Lu Juicy immediately ordered her confined to Linchi Pavilion, forbidding her from leaving the room. He never once went to see her during that time. The maid taking care of her was arranged by me. It was also me who asked mother to allow her to move freely in the courtyard, preventing her from truly going mad like in her previous life. Once she sees the medicine hidden in the bracelet and hears what the old woman has to say, she'll understand who harmed her child and for whose sake it was done. The Marquis she truly loved had never loved her back. The child in her womb was not as valued as the one in Jin Niang's belly. When the time comes, she will surely go mad. In her previous life, she was locked away, and no one ever told her the truth. In this life, I want to see what she will do once she learns the truth. In the evening, Siki told me that Hong Yu had discovered the issue with the golden hairpin and cried bitterly, her eyes swollen from weeping. Yet, she did not confront Lu Juicy nor complain to her mother-in-law. Instead, she tightly clutched the hairpin. She must already know the truth, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how she reacts. Finally, the day came when Jin Niang went into labor. Lu Juicy was busy with official duties and couldn't make it back in time. My mother-in-law and I waited together in the outer hall. Eating too many precious nourishing foods during pregnancy made the baby quite large, and Jin Niang's delivery was not going smoothly. Heart-wrenching cries of agony kept coming from the inner chamber. The midwife suddenly rushed out and asked, "The baby is too big, and there are signs of a difficult birth. Do we save the mother or the child?" Before I could even speak, my mother-in-law beside me shouted, "Save the child, we must ensure the baby's safety." Just then, I noticed a maid quietly entering the inner chamber carrying a copper basin. Without a second thought, I lowered my head to comfort my mother-in-law. "Don't worry, mother, Jin Niang will surely be safe, and both mother and child will come through this." "Murder, murder," the maid screamed. For a moment, the scene was chaotic. I quickly shielded my mother-in-law beside me and helped her walk outside. Soon the assailant was subdued. It was Hong Yu, holding a blood-stained golden hairpin in her hand. By the time Lu Juicy rushed back, Jin Niang was already dead, along with the unborn child in her womb. He scrambled inside, then let out a scream, followed by the sound of retching. I stood in the outer hall, and even through the curtain, I could smell the strong scent of blood, giving me an idea of the gruesome scene inside. "It's all because of Jin Niang and the bastard in her womb that my child died. I want to avenge my child." Outside the room, Hong Yu's mad voice echoed, "Lu Juicy, don't you love her? Then I'll make you wish you were dead. Ha ha ha, you lunatic." Lu Juicy turned around, drew the long sword hanging on the wall, grabbed Hong Yu, pressed it against her throat, and slit it with one swift stroke. I covered my mouth in horror, and my mother-in-law reached out to shield me in her embrace. I never expected that Lu Juicy would dare to kill someone in public, provoked by Hong Yu's words. Lu Juicy had also gone mad, pretending to be frightened. I was helped back to Qinyuan by Siki. In the evening, Siki found out that her mother-in-law had already issued an order strictly forbidding anyone from mentioning the matter again. To the outside world, it was only claimed that Jin Yang had died from a difficult childbirth, while Hong Yu, having lost her child, had gone mad with grief and taken her own life. And so the matter was hushed up. In the shadow of the imperial capital, among the high-ranking and wealthy families, filthy and disgraceful deeds were countless, and human lives were even less worthy of mention. Yet there were still those who cared about these lives. What's more, the one who truly deserves to die is still alive. How can I rest easy? Lu Juicy took leave every day, drowning his sorrows in drink. I heard from the servants that he spent his days painting in his study. Under the guise of concern, I went to take a quiet look. The woman in the painting was dressed in plain, coarse clothing, looking very much like Jin Niang, who had already passed away, but her eyes held a touch more gentleness. I know. That wasn't Jin Niang, it should have been Yu Niang, the one Lu Juicy constantly yearned for. I don't know whether Lu Juicy was grieving over the death of Jin Niang and their child, or mourning the loss of the person who most resembled Yu Niang, but to me, it no longer mattered. Fortunately, with my father's support, he managed to avoid being impeached by the censors and removed from his official position. My mother-in-law believed that time would heal all wounds, and before long, Lu Juicy would return to his usual self. She always urged me to spend more time with him, hoping to lift his spirits. I couldn't be bothered to care about him. But I still had to put on a show to avoid gossip. I continued to serve my mother-in-law daily and often saw Nanny Chiao. Hong Yu was her only daughter. Because of Hong Yu's death, she had aged considerably and lost her former spirit. Her mother-in-law did not make things difficult for her because of Hong Yu's death after all. Chiao Mama had served by her side for most of her life. However, a rift had formed between them. and she no longer allowed Xiao Mema to serve her personally. Instead, sending her to work in the kitchen, Xiao Mema had suddenly gone from being the most esteemed maid by her mother-in-law's side to a kitchen supervisor, and it was hard for her not to feel the servants in the Marquis household were skilled at reading people's moods. After observing for a while, they realized that Xiao Mema truly seemed unable to return to her former position. At first, they whispered in private, but later they openly mocked her. Nanny Xiao couldn't bear the blow and fell ill. As the mistress of the Marquis household, I sympathized with her for losing her daughter in her old age and specially assigned a maid who had once taken care of Hongyu to look after her. Under my direction, I heard she recovered quickly and even went to buy arsenic. One day, my mother-in-law asked me to stay for a chat when a servant suddenly came to report that Lu Juicy had inexplicably vomited blood and was on the verge of death. My mother-in-law, who was in the middle of urging me to find another concubine for Lu Juicy, froze instantly, rooted to the spot. I quietly pinched my own arm, squeezed out a few tears, and with Siki supporting me, ran out wailing. Only then did my mother-in-law snap out of it and chase after me. By the time we arrived, the person was already dead, with blood trickling from all 7 orifices. "Juicy, what's wrong with you?" my mother-in-law wailed as she threw herself forward, all her usual composure gone. I only felt joy in my heart. Lu Juicy was finally dead, and my scheming had not been in vain. During this time, Lu Juicy had been drinking himself into a stupor every day, so my mother-in-law had instructed the kitchen to always have hangover soup ready. In her youth, Nanny Xiao was skilled at making excellent soups and broths, which earned her the privilege of serving by her mother-in-law's side. In her old age, however, due to her daughter's death, she was sent by her mother-in-law to the kitchen to serve as a supervising matron. Under my guidance, she has now learned that the deaths of Hongyu and the child were all orchestrated by Lu Juicy, and she surely despises him to the core. Everyone has the right to know the truth. In my previous life, I only learned the identity of the one who harmed me on my deathbed. So I had no chance to fight back. In this life, I told Hongyu the truth, and she made her choice. Similarly, I also told Nanny Xiao the truth, and she made her choice as well. By the time the authorities found Nanny Xiao, she had already taken her own life. However, arsenic was discovered during the search of her residence. My mother-in-law refused to believe it and caused a huge scene, demanding a thorough investigation by the authorities. As a result, Lu Juice's act of public murder was exposed. The old Marquis, who had always been obsessed with seeking immortality and the Tao, stepped forward. To protect the reputation of the Marquis's household and the Lu family, he chose not to investigate further, and the authorities hastily closed the case. It was publicly announced that Lu Juicy had died from excessive drinking due to the overwhelming grief of losing his beloved concubine and child. Everything was settled. No one would ever look into the true cause of his death again, and so, less than 2 years after marrying into the Yongan Marquis manor, I became a widow. The world pities me, thinking that at such a tender age, in the prime of my life, I've lost my husband. Little do they know how overjoyed I am inside. Lu Juicy was the only son. With his death, the Yongan Marquis lineage has come to an end. This is nothing but karma, a fitting retribution. At Lu Juicy's funeral, I wept with overwhelming grief. Yet no one knew that I was mourning my past self from a previous life. Now that my vengeance has been fulfilled, it was worth being reborn again. After handling Lu Juice's funeral arrangements, the old Marquis continued his pursuit of immortality and spiritual enlightenment, while my mother-in-law, utterly heartbroken, began practicing vegetarianism and chanting Buddhist scriptures. Both withdrew from worldly affairs. Entrusting the entire marquisate to me, I wrote to my mother, informing her that the Yongan Marquisate's title and estate still needed an heir. Not long after, my father submitted a petition and received His Majesty's permission. I selected a child from a collateral branch of the Lu family, a sensible and intelligent child whose mother had passed away early and who was not favored by his father, to be adopted under my name. Becoming the future Yongan Marquis, the Yongan Marquis estate truly became my home. In this lifetime, without Lu Juicy, I lived every day with great joy. And so the first story ends. What do you all think? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed it, please give this video a like. Now, here's the second story. Everyone in the capital knew that the heir of the Marquis estate, Xiao Huashu, and his cousin Liu Wanna were deeply in love with each other, but the Marquis's household struggled to have heirs, and Liu Wanna was frail in health. To continue the family line, the Marquis's elderly lady forcibly separated the lovers and arranged for Xiao Huashu to marry Shenfu, a robust merchant's daughter from out of town. As his official wife, that is, me, on the wedding day, Liu Wanna merely shed a few tears while clutching her chest, and Xiao Huashu abandoned me to carry her away. I anxiously tried to dissuade him, but he kicked me in the chest. Everyone in the capital knows that Wanna and I are deeply in love. Since you shamelessly inserted yourself as the official wife, you must have the tolerance to accept it. In half a month, I will have Wanna carried into the mansion in a grand wedding procession to be my equal wife. Of course, I will give you the heirs you deserve, but don't you dare hope for anything more. I tore off my bridal veil abruptly. Unfortunately, I'm not from the capital and didn't know about the relationship between you two. Otherwise, I would never have agreed to marry into this family. Of course, it's not too late to find out now. Let's call off this marriage between you and me. Seeing me straightforwardly demand to cancel the wedding, the guests attending the banquet began whispering among themselves. The Marquis's household has always had few descendants, especially in the Marquis's generation. They finally adopted an heir from a collateral branch. But who would have thought the imperial physician would bluntly declare that the heir also has difficulty producing offspring? The Shun family women are famously fertile. Even though the Shun family is far away in Jiangnan, we've all heard about it. Her eldest sister gave birth to twins in her first year of marriage, and in the third year, she delivered a pair of dragon and phoenix twins. Indeed, the second Miss Shun is even more remarkable. She gave birth to triplets in one pregnancy. Who in the capital doesn't envy her good fortune? This third Miss Shun is only 15, yet suitors nearly wore out her family's doorstep. In the end, the Marquis's mother personally visited 3 times before old Master Shun relented. For the heir to beat his wife on their wedding day and speak such heartless words, no wonder Miss Shun wants to call off the marriage. Sitting at the head, the old lady who trembled with rage, raising her cane to strike Xiao Huashu. You disgrace. You utter disgrace. Apologize to Fua at once. How long did I humble myself to beg the Shun family, promising you would never take a concubine? Before Master Shun finally agreed to this marriage, and now you dare to demand a second wife and insult Fua. Are you trying to kill me with anger? Liu Wanna, who had been weakly leaning against Xiao Huashu's chest, suddenly knelt on the ground. Grandmother, all the fault is mine. Blame me, scold me. If my health weren't so weak, Brother Shu wouldn't have made such a rash mistake in his desperation. Xiao Huashu looked at Liu Wanna with heartache, his eyes reddening uncontrollably. He swept his robe aside and knelt beside her. I don't believe you were unaware of the bond between Wanna and me. Grandmother, I understand that you bully Wanna for having no parents to stand up for her and disdain her frail health that prevents her from bearing children. I've even agreed to marry this fertile Shun Fu for your sake. But Wanna and I have long pledged our lives to each other. Taking Wanna as my equal wife is the greatest concession I can make. Having said that, he looked at me as if he had made a huge sacrifice. Shun Fu, Wanna is feeling distressed. Must you still vie for attention with her? In the days to come, when the 3 of us live under the same roof, you must prioritize Wanna above all else and never overstep your bounds. I said I want to break off the engagement. Is he incapable of understanding human speech? Although I, Shun Fu, come from a merchant family, my parents are deeply in love, my sisters get along harmoniously, and the number of suitors seeking my hand in marriage could line up from West Street all the way to East Alley. Only if I had been kicked in the head by a donkey would I be foolish enough to wedge myself between him and Liu Wanna. Sitting on the cold bench, but with someone as selfish and arrogant as him, I couldn't be bothered to argue. I simply turned to the old dowager. Madam, when you came to my family to propose marriage, my parents must have made it clear to you that a daughter of the Shun family does not share a husband with another woman. Now that the heir and Miss Liu share such deep affection, I am willing to step aside for their happiness. The marriage arrangement between our 2 families shall be called off here and now. The old dowager's daughter, the wife of the Duke of An, was so startled she shot to her feet. Mother, you must not agree. Have you forgotten the warning from Master Fahue 3 months ago? If we fail to bring a daughter of the Shun family into our household, the Xiao family line will die out. Everyone present was shocked by the news. Master Fahue's fortune-telling has never been wrong. It seems that once this Miss Shun leaves, the Xiao family will truly be left without heirs. Pity the Marquis, a man of iron will. After being bluntly told by the imperial physician that he would have difficulty having children, he couldn't bear to ruin an innocent woman's life and directly adopted Xiao Huashu from a collateral branch as his heir. The Marquis has never married to this day, without even someone to care for him by his side. Yet he still couldn't escape the fate of the Marquis's household having few descendants. This Liu Wanna, attending a wedding banquet, and she ends up spitting blood. With her frail health, expecting her to continue the Xiao family line. It's simply a joke. The murmurs from the crowd below made Liu Wanna's face turn pale and then flush with anger. As if unable to bear it any longer, she covered her chest with tears streaming down her face. Brother Shu. The matter of the Marquis's heir is of great importance. Please go and comfort Miss Shen quickly. Wanna is ill-fated and dare not delay the important matter of the Marquis's lineage. But rest assured, Wanna is already yours and would never dare to betray you by marrying another. Later, I will cut off my hair and become a nun in the mountains, ensuring I do not affect you and Miss Shun having a house full of descendants. After saying this, Liu Wanna seemed unable to endure any longer and fainted weakly into Xiao Huashu's arms. Xiao Huashu's eyes turned red with anxiety, and he glared at me fiercely. Are you satisfied now that things have come to this? Shen Fu, let me make this clear. In half a month, I will marry Wanna with all the honors of a formal wedding. Of course, I will not shortchange you in terms of status and dignity, but if you think you can threaten me with breaking off the engagement, you have chosen the wrong person. If you have the guts, then call off the engagement. I'd like to see who would dare marry the woman whom Master Fahue prophesied is destined to marry into my Xiao family. If you come crawling back someday, don't blame me for not saving your face. With that, ignoring the dowager's attempts to stop him, he strode out with Liu Wanna in his arms. The lady of Angua Manor stamped her foot in fury. Mother, look at him. Is this the behavior of a Marquis heir? Disrespectful to his elders. Irresponsible. He just dumped this mess here and ran off. The dowager closed her eyes. Our Xiao family has wronged you this time. Huashu's behavior is truly unworthy of you. Tonight, I will personally go to apologize to your parents. On the day you marry, I will add a generous dowry for you. You poor child, you've been wronged. Lady Angua's already flushed face grew even redder. Mother, have you forgotten Master Fahue's words? The Dowager Marchioness frowned deeply. Silence. A person without integrity cannot stand. I promised the Shen family I would not take a concubine, and now with Huashu in such a state, how can I face Shen's parents? Lady Angua's eyes shifted thoughtfully. So having the bride's sedan chair turn back the way it came is how you'll face them. No matter the reason for calling off this wedding, Miss Shen's reputation will be affected. If you ask me, we should just go with the flow. Miss Shen is someone even Master Fahue approves of, which shows her destined marriage is right here in our Xiao family. Since Xiao Huashu is useless, isn't there still my elder brother? She grew more and more excited as she spoke, unable to resist grabbing my hand. Fua, my elder brother is a proper Marquis, and all these years he has kept himself pure, without a single concubine or maid by his side. Although he is 10 years older than you, older men know how to cherish their wives. On your wedding day, if you drag your dowry back to your parents' home, not only will your parents worry, but even your married elder sisters will face criticism because of you. But if you remarry my brother, you will become the rightful Marchioness of our Marquis household. Plus, with your naturally fertile constitution, once you bear a son or daughter in the future, why worry about not having a good life? Although the lady of the Duke of Angua was somewhat quick-tempered, she did possess quick wit. The Dowager Marchioness looked at me with eager eyes. Do you agree to the marriage swap? Recalling how I had just requested to break off the engagement, the Dowager Marchioness's reasonableness, and her current anxiety, I pursed my lips. As long as the Marquis doesn't mind, is willing to adapt to the urgent situation. It wasn't until Marquis Xiao Yanli and I completed the wedding ceremony and were escorted into the bridal chamber that I felt completely dazed. Ji Qin, the young maid, was extremely uneasy. You were supposed to marry the heir, so how did you suddenly get promoted to become his mother? And you, young mistress, why didn't you send someone home to discuss with the master and madam before hastily agreeing? I stuffed a piece of pastry into Ji Qin's mouth to stop her incessant chatter. Silly girl. Although our Shun family is wealthy, we are still just merchants. Eldest sister and second sister may be valued by their in-laws for being fertile, but the constant scheming and rivalry among the family's womenfolk, how easy do you think that is to handle? If I had called off the wedding on the day of the ceremony, wouldn't I have been handing them a weapon against me? And then there's Xiao Huashu. Did you see how he dared to kick me with his foot during the wedding? It's clear he's never held me in any regard. With Master Fahue's prophecy hanging over us, what if someday, for the sake of an heir, he uses his power to force me into confinement somewhere to bear his child? When that time comes, and I cry out to heaven with no answer, what would become of me? Wouldn't it be better to simply marry his father? His current arrogance stems solely from his status as the heir. But tell me, what if the Marquis were to have a child of his own? There's one more thing I haven't said. I'm someone who never forgets a grievance. Xiao Huashu dared to kick me in public and even subtly mocked my humble origins. Then I'll let him experience what it feels like to have the thing he cares about most taken away by someone of lowly birth. Just as we were speaking, Xiao Yanli, supported by a servant, returned to the bridal chamber reeking of alcohol. I was about to have the servants assist him when I saw him smiling as he took off his outer robe, his eyes clear and alert. If I hadn't pretended to be drunk, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to get rid of those people urging me to drink all night. My anxious heart suddenly relaxed. It's good that he's not rigid and knows how to be flexible. He cleared his throat lightly. I've been away fighting battles these years and neglected to discipline Huashu properly. I don't know when he became so twisted. You've been wrong today. From now on, treat him as your stepson. Whether he needs scolding or punishing is entirely up to you. If anyone gossips about it, just come to me, I'll stand up for you. With just 2 sentences, he smoothly moved past the awkwardness of the bride substitution. Looking at his handsome features, I couldn't help but laugh. Husband, are you treating Fua like a tigress? Why start by telling me to beat and scold right away? The red candles burned until dawn. In my drowsy state, I felt someone tracing my eyebrows with their fingers. I swatted the hand away impatiently. Ji-Qin, stop bothering me. I want to sleep. Hearing Xiao Yanli's muffled laughter, I suddenly realized this wasn't my maiden home. I was already a married woman, accompanied by Xiao Yanli. I went to the ancestral hall to serve tea to the old madam of the Marquis household and the senior clan elders, watching as my name, Shen Fu, was recorded in the clan registry as the Marchioness. The old madam beamed with joy, her eyes crinkling into slits. I never thought I'd live to see the day I'd drink tea from my daughter-in-law. Good, good, good. You and Yanli must get along well, and soon give me a plump grandson, then my life will have been truly fulfilled. Seeing my flushed cheeks, Xiao Yanli smoothly intervened. Mother, tomorrow Fua will make her bridal return visit. I'd like to personally accompany her to the market to select some gifts for the occasion. The old lady laughed even more heartily. Go quickly. A husband and wife should care for each other's well-being. It's good that you two are like this. While helping his mother choose a pearl necklace at the treasure pavilion, Xiao Yanli ran into a colleague. Perhaps there was something urgent at the Yamen. As the man kept pulling Xiao Yanli aside to report endlessly, I had no interest in listening to such matters and thought about going upstairs to choose an inkstone for Xiao Yanli. Little did I expect to run into Chen Wanna and Xiao Huashu right there. The two nestled together. Huashu, do you think the Marquis will really allow me to join the family just because he accepted the inkstone I gave? I feel he's rather indifferent about your affairs. Yesterday at your wedding, he only stayed in the back entertaining guests. A trace of gloom flashed in Xiao Huashu's eyes. Father rarely involves himself in household matters. Shen Fu spoke harshly yesterday, but in the end, she couldn't bear to leave our Marquis residence. It's just taking a secondary wife. Father sees how well behaved you are and naturally won't object. Hearing my name, Chen Wanna frowned slightly. The thought of her occupying your wife's position in the future feels like someone is stabbing a knife straight into my heart. Huashu, if someday I raise her child and the child only recognizes its birth mother, won't all my efforts be in vain? Xiao Huashu said with certainty. They won't. Chen Wanna whimpered, stepping back repeatedly until she fell into Xiao Huashu's arms. The human heart is hard to fathom. How can you guarantee it? Xiao Huashu's voice was venomous. What if she dies from postpartum hemorrhage? Who would keep thinking about a dead person? I shuddered in shock, unable to help but feel a sense of lingering fear. Fortunately, I made a scene yesterday. Fortunately, I decisively changed the marriage yesterday. My interest in selecting an inkstone vanished instantly, and I signaled the waiter to take me downstairs. The waiter asked in confusion, "The finest inkstones in our shop are all on the second floor. Did you really not find a single one to your liking?" Xiao Huashu looked up and met my impatient expression. His face suddenly darkened. "On the second day of our wedding, instead of staying home to serve your mother-in-law, you actually followed me." Ji-Qin had long been unable to hold back. Our young lady came to choose a gift for the homecoming visit, and incidentally to pick a suitable inkstone for her own husband. How could that be considered following you? Chen Wanna pursed her lips, tears glistening in her eyes. "Sister, you clearly know that Brother Shu dislikes literary pursuits. Why use him as an excuse? Everyone knows that in our Marquis household, only the Marquis appreciates inkstones. With your family's wealth and status, why can't you please the Marquis in other ways? Must you compete with me for the chance to present an inkstone?" I was choosing an inkstone for my own husband. How did that become stealing her opportunity? Yet that brainless Xiao Huashu immediately accused me upon hearing this. You already have grandmother's affection and aunt's protection. Why must you also compete with Wana for father's favor? I heard this treasure pavilion is your dowry. I was in a hurry when I went out yesterday and forgot to bring silver. Wana just picked out some jewelry and this inkstone. You go tell the shopkeeper not to charge for them. Consider it your apology to Wana. As soon as she heard she didn't have to pay, Chen Wana forgot all about pretending to be weak. Pointing at the counter, she said, this one, and this one. Actually, just wrap up this entire top row of inkstones. I'll take them home and carefully decide which one to give to the Marquis. The shop assistant remained unmoved. Waiting for my instruction, Ji-Qin rolled her eyes. If I didn't know better, I'd think this was a robbery rather than selecting inkstones. Miss Chen certainly knows how to pick. She's chosen every single item from our treasure pavilion's most valuable display case. I idly blew on the non-existent dust on my fingernails. Don't worry, pack it up for Miss Chen, young master who is just joking with you. How could a noble young master like him possibly buy things without paying? That would be a laughingstock. The shop assistant swiftly calculated on his abacus. Miss Chen has such excellent taste. Immediately spotting our shop's treasure. This inkstone was made by a master from the previous dynasty 8,000 taels. This one was used by the founding emperor 10,000 taels. Altogether it comes to 200,000 and 250 taels. Since you're family to our young lady, we'll give you a family discount and even 200,000 taels. Consider those 250 as our gift to you. Xiao Huashu's face darkened severely. Shen Fu, I know you're jealous of my feelings for Wana and resent me for kicking you yesterday, but a man's face is more important than anything. Are you really going to embarrass me over mere money? Chen Wana leaned weakly against Xiao Huashu's chest. Brother Shu, if sister is reluctant to part with these things, perhaps we shouldn't take them. We'll be living together for the rest of our lives, and I don't want to make things difficult for sister. Hearing this, Xiao Huashu's expression darkened even more. You're just too kind-hearted. I am her husband. She belongs to me entirely, how much more so her dowry. If she dares to let the people of this treasure pavilion make things difficult for you, I'll divorce her on the spot. Familiar footsteps approached, and a cold, clear voice sounded beside them. You insolent fool, who are you going to divorce? Xiao Huashu and Chen Wana clearly hadn't expected to run into Xiao Yanli at the treasure pavilion, but Chen Wana was the most eloquent. She suddenly knelt on the ground. Marquis, please don't blame Brother Shu. He cares too much about you and just wanted to choose the right inkstone for you. But, she glanced at me several times, as if timid yet finally mustering up courage. But sister said, she said the inkstone is too valuable, and it would be a waste to offer it to you. Brother Shu has respected you since childhood, and when he heard this, he couldn't help but get angry. It was in a fit of rage that he said those words. Xiao Huashu quickly chimed in. Yes, father, this Shen Fu, after all, comes from a merchant background and is truly unrefined. She even disrespects her elders, so I only scolded her a little. Xiao Yanli kicked Xiao Huashu. Have you learned all your manners and etiquette only to forget them? How dare you call Shen Fu by her name, scolding your stepmother, who gave you the nerve? At these words, Xiao Huashu's eyes widened in shock. Stepmother, didn't father decide never to remarry, so as not to ruin a woman's future? How could he marry now? And to Shen Fu, of all people, Ji-Qin had long disliked him, and upon hearing this, she sneered coldly. The Marquis has struggled to have children, but our young lady is naturally blessed with fertility. In the future, when she and the Marquis have a little heir, their life will be harmonious and happy. How could that be considered ruining our young lady's future? Xiao Huashu's face was full of panic and disbelief. Father is lying to me, isn't he? I know father is angry about my mischief yesterday, but Wana is frail, and I was afraid something might happen to her. So I took her to see the doctor first. He took a deep breath and looked at me with impatience all over his face. No matter how jealous you are of Wana's presence, you can't ask father to go along with your nonsense and deceive others. How can you mix up the relationship between a daughter-in-law and her father-in-law? Alright, I'll go home with you right now. Before I marry Wana, I'll stay in your room every day. Didn't the Shen family boast that women are naturally easy to conceive? A dozen or so days should be enough for you to get pregnant, right? I couldn't hold back any longer and slapped his smug face. What nonsense are you spouting? Your father and I are a married couple who have bowed to heaven and earth and entered the bridal chamber. Though I am young, I am your legitimate stepmother. If you keep spouting such nonsense, I'll have to enforce the family rules. After saying that, I couldn't be bothered to look at Chen Wana and Xiao Huashu's ashen faces. Instead, I took Xiao Yanli's arm and pointed out items to him in detail. This is the final work of a master from the previous dynasty, and this is the inkstone used by Emperor Shengzu. Which one do you like?" A flicker of amusement shone in Xiao Yanli's eyes. "Bribing me," I said with a serious expression. "You treat me well, and I want to make you happy too." On the day of the bridal return visit, my parents' expressions were quite grim after learning I had married the Marquis instead. Father stated bluntly, "Your lordship, this Shun Dashan is a blunt man. When the Dowager Marchioness came to propose the marriage, she promised that the future heir of the Marquis household would come from my daughter. It was only after that assurance that I agreed to the match. Now that Xiao Huashu is causing a scene at the wedding, my daughter, in order to fulfill your Xiao family's so-called fateful decree, has reluctantly accepted this matter of the switched marriage. My daughter is young and inexperienced, but I must fight for her. You are already 10 years older than my daughter. What if you die before her? If my daughter falls into the hands of a stepson with old grudges, what kind of life could she possibly have? To be honest, this girl is just too naive. If your Marquis household breaks the agreement, she should simply return home. Why go through all this trouble for your sake? Now, either you keep your promise and strip Xiao Huashu of his heir position, or I will personally go to the Marquis residence to retrieve my daughter's dowry." Xiao Yanli lowered his head in thought for a long moment, then nodded. "Father-in-law, rest assured, I will return and discuss with my mother about stripping the heir position. This will also serve as an apology for the humiliation Fua suffered yesterday." In places where Xiao Yanli couldn't see, Father and I exchanged a secret signal. Some words were not suitable for me to say, but when it came to fighting for my interests, I wouldn't yield an inch. Wasn't Liu Wanna supposed to have a bond with Xiao Huashu stronger than gold? Let's see if her affection can withstand the test when he loses his position as the heir and returns to the impoverished and difficult life of a collateral branch. Xiao Yanli truly lived up to his reputation as a military general, handling matters with decisive efficiency. On the very night we returned to our residence in the capital, right in the Hall of Eternal Peace and in front of the matriarch, he announced the decision to disinherit the heir. Xiao Huashu was filled with disbelief. "Father wants to disinherit me. What have I done wrong for you to treat me this way?" Xiao Yanli calmly and unhurriedly stated the demands made by my father. Xiao Huashu looked at me with a gaze that seemed ready to kill, because of a woman. Father would disregard the years of father-son affection between us. Xiao Yanli picked up a cup of hot tea, the steam misting over his eyes, making his expression unreadable. After a long while, he let out a light, scornful laugh. "You were 12 when you were adopted into the main branch. To put it plainly, you're only 10 years younger than me. Have you forgotten why I adopted you in the first place?" Xiao Huashu's face instantly turned deathly pale. He stammered, At that time I was just a child. I didn't understand anything. It was all my birth parents' doing. All these years I have served the Marquis's household diligently, yet just because I didn't marry Shen Fu, you want to disinherit me. I refuse to accept this." The dowager slammed the teacup onto Xiao Huashu's head. "Back then, your parents joined forces with the entire clan's elders. Taking advantage of Yanli's severe injury on the battlefield and his difficulty in producing heirs, to force their way in, they said the Marquis's title must not end with Yanli, begging him to consider the future of the Xiao family for centuries to come, and to adopt an heir to establish a successor. Yanli knew full well that you lacked integrity, but he was tormented by the imperial physician's blunt diagnosis of his difficulty in having children, and dared not become the sinner of the Xiao family. Yet how have you acted as this heir? At 13, you fooled around with maids and ended up with premature ejaculation. Now I've swallowed my pride to arrange a marriage for you with a girl from the Shun family known for her fertility, yet you humiliate Fua right at the wedding ceremony. Even disregarding the master's prophecy, you still insisted on taking Liu Wanna away, with your wicked heart and lack of responsibility. You are utterly unworthy of being the heir to our Marquis manor." That night, Xiao Yanli entered the palace to request an imperial decree to depose the heir. However, out of consideration for their years of upbringing, he still allowed Xiao Huashu to reside in the Marquis manor. I couldn't help but narrow my eyes. Having someone I dislike constantly hovering around, how could that be acceptable? The next day, Xiao Yanli, who was rarely free, took me boating on the lake and even accompanied me to Yinkeju for braised pork knuckle before we returned to the manor. We had just arrived at the entrance of the Marquis's residence when we heard a continuous clamor of noise. Getting off the carriage, I saw that it was Xiao Huashu's parents wailing and crying. As soon as she spotted Xiao Yanli, Xiao Huashu's mother, Aunt Xiao, rushed forward. "Heaven's wrath, is there no justice left? Back then, I didn't want to give you my child. But you insisted, saying the main branch had difficulty having heirs, and begged me to give you Aishu, and what happened? Your main branch has committed too many sins, and heaven wants to cut off your lineage. My poor Aishu has been dragged down by you and now also struggles to have children. Now that the Xiao family has finally found a woman who is easy to conceive, you actually have the nerve to marry your future daughter-in-law yourself. Is there any father in the world like you? The surrounding onlookers were not having it. Hold on, Aunt Xiao, I don't like what you're saying. The eldest branch of the Xiao family defends the nation and fights the enemy, killing those who invade our land. How can that be considered too much bloodshed? Exactly. The Xiao army is loyal and patriotic, protecting the people. They are our heroes. Why are you speaking so harshly? What? You gave your son to the eldest branch, and now you regret it and want to take him back? What future daughter-in-law? We heard it clearly the day before yesterday that it was your son who wanted to marry Miss Liu and broke off the engagement with Miss Shen. The Marquis, in reverence for Master Fahue's prophecy, feared that the Xiao family would truly be left without an heir, thus becoming the sinner of the entire Marquis household. That's why he hastily married Miss Shen under the circumstances. Exactly, if it weren't for your son's foolish actions. How could things have come to this? Aunt Xiao Wu remembered her son's repeated urgings before she left. She must pressure the Marquis to divorce Shen Fu. That woman was already fertile. If she were to give birth to the Marquis's legitimate son someday, Xiao Huashu would truly have no way back to the Marquis household. So she threw an even bigger tantrum. I don't care. As a mother, I absolutely cannot stand by and watch my son be humiliated. Today, the Marquis must divorce this troublemaker. The commotion at the door alarmed the Dowager Marchioness. Leaning on her cane, it was unclear how much she had overheard, but she coldly sneered and said, since the fifth branch's wife cannot bear to part with her own son, from today onward, take Huashu back home with you. As soon as these words were spoken, fifth Aunt Xiao was like a duck with its beak and nostrils blocked, letting out one last mournful he-he sound before she could no longer make a noise. Her mouth was wide open. Her eyes filled with despair and disbelief. After a long while, she finally found her voice. No, absolutely not. Huashu has been raised in luxury since childhood, treated as heaven's favored one. How could she possibly return to my dilapidated home? Aunt, I was wrong. I won't act recklessly anymore, I beg you. For the sake of all the years Huashu has spent by your side, bringing you joy, please show a little tolerance. The old lady's cane struck the floor with a sharp thump sound. A flicker of contempt in her eyes. Are you saying that the reason Huashu has so few descendants is because of the heavy bloodshed caused by my branch of the family? Fifth Aunt Xiao hurriedly waved her hands. No, I spoke out of turn. I was talking nonsense. It's all my fault. The old lady slapped her across the face. You are indeed despicable. Your son is only 13, and yet, afraid that your maiden family wouldn't benefit from him, you sent your niece to Huashu's bed. If you hadn't used the excuse of missing your relatives to bring him home and engage in such misconduct, our Marquis household would never have raised a child with prematurely depleted vital essence. Ji Qin excitedly gripped my hand tightly. I desperately averted my gaze to suppress the smile at the corner of my mouth, yet in the crowd, I saw Xiao Huashu with eyes full of painful tears, and beside him, the twisted and resentful Li Wanna, just as I thought. How could such a lively scene be complete without the main characters? Huashu, your mother is emotionally agitated. Why are you still hiding in the crowd? Come quickly and help her. The crowd spontaneously made way for Li Huashu and Liu Wanna. Li Huashu knelt upright before the elderly lady. Grandmother, I knew nothing of what Aunt Xiao Wu did. When I was young and ignorant, I was harmed by Aunt Xiao Wu, but now that I have grown up, I will no longer be deceived by her. If mother could soon add a new heir to the Marquis's household, it would be a blessing for our family. As the elder brother, I will surely take good care of my younger brother. Aunt Xiao Wu was stunned by these words, and after a moment of shock, she threw herself at Li Huashu. You wretched creature, who have I done all this for? You actually call me Aunt Xiao Wu? Fine, for the sake of your future, you won't even acknowledge your own mother. Liu Wanna, delicate and fragile, moved closer to Aunt Xiao Wu. Auntie, you are the one who cares most about Brother Shu's future in this world. Now that Brother Shu is doing well in the Marquis's household, if you suddenly cause a scene, aren't you just adding trouble for him? If you ask me, you should hurry back home and stop making a fool of yourself here. Liu Wanna meant well with her advice, but to Madame Xiao Wu, her words felt like a dagger to the heart. What made it worse was that the one speaking so arrogantly was none other than Liu Wanna, whom Madame Xiao Wu despised the most. She began slapping Liu Wanna across the face, shouting, if it weren't for you, You wretched woman, seducing my son, how could he have ruined the Shen family's marriage on his wedding day? The Marquis had long given up the idea of marrying and having children. But because of you, Shen Fu was sent to his side. It's all your fault. Xiao Huashu was completely infatuated with Liu Wanna at the time. How could he stand by and watch the woman he loved suffer? He shoved Madame Xiao Wu away forcefully and yelled, "Get out, who do you think you are, trying to control me?" The old lady snorted with a laugh, ignoring right and wrong, beating his own birth mother. Such an unfilial son is not someone our main branch dares to keep, from today onward. Xiao Huashu and fifth aunt Xiao shall return to their own home and are no longer adopted sons of our Marquis manor. After saying this, regardless of how fifth aunt Xiao and Xiao Huashu pleaded, the old lady turned and walked away. The onlooking commoners couldn't help but jeer. Haha, this is just too ridiculous. Yesterday they still looked down on the Shen family girl for being from a merchant background, but now she's the high and mighty marchioness. Meanwhile, Xiao Huashu has fallen from the clouds. I wonder if this noble young master, accustomed to sleeping in fragrant boudoirs and warm chambers, can adapt to fifth aunt Xiao's leaky-roofed house. Look at Liu Wanna, usually so close to Xiao Huashu they could share a pair of pants, and now that Xiao Huashu is deathly pale, she doesn't even think to lend him a hand. What do you know, she's clever, probably already thinking of a way out. These words completely enraged Xiao Huashu. He abruptly pulled Liu Wanna into his arms. I've lost everything for you. You're so gentle and considerate, you would never look down on me, right? We'll get married tomorrow. The Marquis has difficulty having children if we have a child first. This Marquis estate will still be within our grasp. Liu Wanna's eyes darted around nervously. Aunt Xiao slapped her across the face. You slut, with your half-dead appearance, you still dream of marrying my son. When we return, I'll sell you to a brothel. It's all because of you, you wretched woman, that my son's future is ruined. Xiao Huashu abruptly shielded Liu Wanna behind him, roaring, what are you talking about? I was living just fine in the Marquis's residence, able to take my time and plan things out. Why did you have to jump out and cause trouble? Aunt Xiao Wu's eyes widened in disbelief. Wasn't it you who sent a message asking me to come and stand up for you? Ji Qin, who had been hiding in the crowd watching the drama, grinned like a cat that had gotten the cream. Miss, you should have seen it. They were like dogs biting each other. It was absolutely hilarious. I tapped her forehead lightly. Don't just focus on having fun. Did you arrange a safe place for the messenger? Ji Qin puffed out his chest proudly. After delivering the message last night, I rushed back to Jiangnan immediately. Don't you trust my work, Ji Qin? Xiao Yanli entered from outside the door. What are you talking about? It sounds so lively. Mother summoned us to show and hall, probably to make some arrangements. Let's go and listen. Ji Qin was very clever. I said the young master likes the young mistress in pink clothes, but she insisted that you prefer crimson. Xiao Yanli gazed at me tenderly. Fur looks beautiful in anything she wears. Under Ji Qin's teasing gaze, I held Xiao Yanli's hand as we walked together to show and hall. The old lady actually directly handed the housekeeping keys to me. I'm old and useless now. From now on, everything in this household will be left to you young people. As for me, I'll just wait to hold my grandchild. My face flushed with embarrassment, and to make matters worse, Xiao Yanli said with complete seriousness, your son will certainly work hard. I couldn't hold back any longer and punched him. He said he truly worked hard. Study, small couch, bedroom. Even the recliner. When he bullied me the hardest, I couldn't help but curse. Which imperial physician said you were incapable? Is this what you call incapable? Xiao Yanli sealed all my complaints with his lips, making me feel just how capable he really was. Of course, he is capable. But I am not falling behind either. A little over a month after the grand wedding, during the morning meal, I suddenly felt nauseous and couldn't stop vomiting. The imperial physician took my pulse and beamed with joy. Congratulations, old madam. Congratulations, Marquis. The lady is with child. The dowager marchioness was so thrilled that she rewarded all the servants in the mansion with a full year's wages, and hastily took back the authority of managing the household. I am treated like a little baby every day, taken care of in every aspect of life, from food and clothing to daily routines. Xiao Yanli even pressed his ear against my still flat belly. Weeping with joy, little one, you have no idea how overjoyed your father is. When you are born, I will give you everything a father can possibly give. He held me tightly, his tears soaking through my clothes. Shen Fu, thank you. Thank you for allowing the Xiao family to have an heir. Thank you for letting me experience the happiness of being a father. Though I never dared to say it out loud, I always suspected that perhaps the Xiao family's karma was too heavy with bloodshed. And that was why heaven was punishing us by withholding descendants. But now that you are here, you are the blessing our entire Xiao family has been waiting for. Every day passes smoothly, and I no longer dwell on the little incidents of the past. However, the scandal caused by Xiao Huashu and Liu Wanna was so significant that even if I didn't want to pay attention, I couldn't help but hear about it. On the 10th day after being expelled from the Marquis estate, Xiao Huashu married Liu Wanna. Jiqin whispered. It said that Liu Wanna was unwilling to get into the bridal sedan, but Xiao Huashu threatened her with the undergarments she had worn, saying he would spread them all over the streets if she didn't comply. Liu Wanna had no choice but to give in, but after marriage, facing the poverty and cramped conditions of Xiao Wushu's family, Liu Wanna simply couldn't adapt. Moreover, as an orphaned girl with no one to rely on, no dowry, and no servants, Aunt Xiao had long grown tired of household chores. As soon as Liu Wanna married into the family, she was forced to take on the tasks of washing, cooking, and cleaning. Yet all the grievances she endured were invisible to Xiao Huashu, who only kept dragging her along to make babies. Liu Wanna was truly frail by nature and could not endure marital relations. Especially since Xiao Huashu was in a foul mood and became increasingly unrestrained in bed, Jiqin added, I heard that in the worst cases, the sheets were covered in blood. Doesn't Xiao Huashu truly love her? How could he treat her so terribly now? I also feel a bit wistful. How did the deeply beloved from our youth end up in such a state? I couldn't help but ask, what happened next? Jiqin chuckled lightly. Miss, there's no need to feel sorry for her. It turned out that after being tormented for a month, Liu Wanna could no longer endure it. She drugged the food with knockout drops, and while the Xiao mother and son were unconscious, she stole all the valuable items from the Xiao family and ran off with a foreign merchant. When Xiao Huashu woke up and discovered that the jade pendant, inkstone, and even the embroidered coat he had brought from the Marquis residence were all missing, he completely lost his mind. He blamed everything on his mother, resenting her for making decisions on her own and ruining everything for him, even going so far as to beat and kick Aunt Xiao Wu. After Aunt Xiao was on the verge of death, he became terrified and sought help from the Marquis residence, the elderly lady who, in high spirits from recent joyous events, received him. At that time, I was curled up on the small couch in the old lady's room reading a book when he, with his face covered in snot and tears, came in and immediately clung to the old lady's leg, starting to cry. Grandmother, I regret it. I am willing to marry Shenfu again. I know, grandson, that this willfulness has disappointed you and father, especially father, who clearly said he wouldn't ruin the rest of another girl's life, but because of me, he had to temporarily appease Shenfu. Now that your grandson has returned, I see clearly Liu Wanna's selfishness and the fickleness of the world. From now on, I will wholeheartedly be your good grandson, manage our Marquis estate well, and give you 10 or 8 great-grandchildren. Grandson, I beg you, please grant me this one more time. The old lady's lips trembled for a long while, still unable to speak, shocked by Xiao Huashu. The old lady's personal maid laughed in disbelief. Young master of the 5th Aunt Xiao's family, stop your wishful thinking. Our lady is already with child. Don't you find your words utterly ridiculous? Xiao Huashu's face was full of shock. Impossible. I didn't even touch her on our wedding day before leaving with Wanna. How could she be pregnant? Grandmother, Shenfu has brought shame upon our Marquis household, and you still treat her like a treasure. Yes. Let's use this leverage against her to make her bear a child for our Xiao family. Once the child is born, a bowl of poison will take care of the rest. Everything will be just fine. I was so angry I could no longer lie still. I walked out of the side room and asked, who are you planning to poison? Xiao Huashu's gaze lingered on my prominently swollen belly, his eyes evasive. You're carrying a bastard child. I'm only trying to find a way out for you. Here's the deal. Get rid of this bastard. Settle down and live with me. Bear a few more children for the Marquis's estate. In the future, considering your hard work and contributions, I might overlook the fact that you were once defiled by a scoundrel. Xiao Yanli's furious voice came from outside the door. Who are you calling a scoundrel? How is the child of Xiao Yanli a bastard? Xiao Huashu's face instantly turned deathly pale, his voice filled with disbelief. Father, have you truly been with Shenfu? Is this child truly the offspring of you two? But, didn't the imperial physicians say your lineage was sparse? Didn't you say you didn't want to delay innocent women? Xiao Yanli slapped Xiao Huashu across the face. Do I need to explain all of this to you? And you, what nonsense are you spouting at my Marquis manor? How dare you disrespect the Marquise? How many heads do you have to spare? The dowager's face also darkened. Weren't you desperately determined to marry that Liu Wanna? now that I, an old woman, am no longer standing in your way, you've gotten your wish. Why come here to disgust me?" Xiao Huashu's face turned ashen. She took all my money and ran away." Ji Qin couldn't help but laugh. "Truly, the wheel of fortune turns. Young Master Xiao once looked down on my young mistress. What a pity. The Liu Wanna you treasure so dearly is truly the one who can't hold her own in decent company." Xiao Huashu glared furiously. "What business is it of yours, you wretched wench, madam? Are you just going to stand by and watch a maid insult me?" The matriarch completely ignored him, instead smiling as she pulled Ji Qin closer. "Good girl, loyal and protective of your mistress. I shall reward you with an extra year's allowance personally." Xiao Huashu flew into a complete rage. He violently swept the teacup in front of him to the floor. Just as I was about to call for the guards, a group of government soldiers entered from outside. The leading Dali temple minister was very polite. "Madam Marquis, we are apprehending the murderer according to the law. We apologize for any offense." I waved my hand, watching as the Dali temple minister escorted Xiao Huashu away. The steward looked pained that Aunt Xiao Wu was beaten to death in her own home. Although Aunt Xiao Wu wasn't the best person, she gave her all for her son, to die at the hands of her own son. It's truly. The old lady waved her hand. "Hurry and leave. How can you say such things in front of my grandson? Don't frighten him." I couldn't help but laugh as well. As seasons turned and cicadas sang, I gave birth to a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. The old lady was overjoyed. Holding the two children in her arms, looking at one and then the other, unable to bear putting them down, Xiao Yanli held my hand tenderly. "Though the dragon and phoenix bring auspicious blessings, they've exhausted my fua. Look, your face has turned pale. The cicadas outside the window are still chirping. But I don't feel annoyed, only enveloped in happiness."